Hello FlossTube, my name's Philip. I'm known as PipStitch on FlossTube and PipStitch1 on Instagram. This is my 7th FlossTube video. I made my 6th video back in October and I said then I'd try and make videos more regularly. Well, I didn't. Sorry about that. It's been 3 months and the reason for that has largely been work related. I've been extremely busy at work and I'm only just now starting to slacken off a little bit at work. It's Sunday evening, the 4th of February. I thought I'd better do a video soon and this seems to be the perfect time to do one. So it's a little bit darker than it normally is. I was going to make this on Friday because I had the day off on Friday and Friday came and went, and then I was going to do it yesterday and so on and so forth. If I don't do this now, I may never make another FlossTube video. So here I am, hale and hearty, not dead like you might have thought I've been, because I've just gone completely underground. I've posted a few things here and there on Instagram and Stitch Mania and the Heaven and Earth Designs Facebook group, because really stitching has been the only thing that's kept me sane while I've been working so busily. I've always made time each day to do a little bit of stitching because I just find it, as we all do I'm sure, such an incredibly calming and relaxing and mindful hobby, which I think is why I enjoy it so much. So here I am with not a lot of progress, because in the last 3 months I've stitched on one thing, but I thought if I didn't do a bit of a kind of a finish review and a going forward whip review now, there would be no point in doing it, because we're already into February and most people have already done their finishes, reviews and whip predictions and are sort of already onto them. So this is my last minute catch up. So what's been happening? Well, as I say, it's been all work and no play really. This weekend's been a little bit more relaxing. My brother was celebrating his 50th birthday over the weekend. He came up from London, so we met him in Manchester last night for a bit of a pub crawl, although we bailed out quite quickly because I'm not really pub crawly type people, and had lunch over at Mother's today, which was very nice and much more relaxing. So traditional roast beef and Yorkshire pudding dinner for us. So yes, I'm digressing. I don't know how I even got onto that. I'll get back into the groove with this soon. I've completely forgotten how to make these videos. It's been so long. So I made a bit of a list of things that I was going to do and talk about so that it has some kind of structure rather than me ambling on aimlessly. So since my last FlossTube video, huge thanks again to the numerous people that took the time to message me. I was keeping on top of all those and sending messages to everybody, which I always think is something that is so important with FlossTube, that you communicate back to people that have taken the time and effort to communicate to you. And I fell off the wagon. I'm so sorry for about the last 10 messages for people that messaged me and I didn't respond. I barely had a chance to look at anything on my tablet. I've completely fallen off watching other people's FlossTube videos. I've caught up with one or two here and there and sent a few messages out, but I have been hopeless, absolutely hopeless. The only thing I've had time to do is stitch for my own sanity. My last video, lots of people complimented me on my shirt, so thank you very much. That shirt is like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. I love it, obviously, because I was wearing it, and a lot of people just look at me like I'm insane. I don't care. I like my bright jazzy shirts. I'm in black this evening. I've just been singing with my choir, not my choir, the choir I sing in, for Compline over in St Mary's medieval church in Nantwich. So I'm a little bit more somberly dressed this evening. So thank you for the comments on the shirt. It may make another appearance. One of the comments that I thought I'd picked up on was a lady who had been asking about a possible stitch along for the Riolis Van Gogh Starry Night, and I'm so sorry to the lady. I didn't respond and I can't find the message now. So if you're out there and you sent a message about doing a stitch along, of course I would love to do a stitch along with the Van Gogh Starry Night at some point. I have a few whips and things to get through, but it was something I would very much like to revisit. So yeah, so if you're out there and you sent a message and you pulled it because you thought I was being incredibly rude, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intention at all, and yes, I'd love to discuss the possibility of doing some kind of stitch along on the Van Gogh Riolis Starry Nights kit, and if anybody else would like to take part in that, of course that would be an absolute joy to do. That's what this whole community is about, really, to me. There we go. There's something I have been meaning to show, and I'm not going to be able to do it now because I can't find them. So I'll have to do it on another video. I was going to discuss, how stupid am I? I was going to discuss the magnifying eye thingies that I use, which are possibly the most invaluable piece of cross-stitch equipment that I have. It's a sort of a headband thing with magnifying lenses, you know, the kind of thing. And I just wanted to sort of say, if anyone's got any doubts about buying one of those or has never experienced stitching with one, it has been completely life-changing for me. Sometimes in these videos you may have noticed I wear glasses and sometimes I don't. I normally wear contact lenses, and that's fine, but for a lot of the 1/1 stitching that I'm doing, I really struggle on high count fabric, and these mag-eye things have been a real boost and made life so much easier. And they're very easy, they flip up and flip down, and they're great. And I was going to show them to you, and I thought I'd brought them up, and they're not here, so I'm not going to show you those after all. But if anyone's interested, I can definitely make a point of bringing those into the room next time. The other thing that came from my last video, there was a lot of thumbs up on the idea of me doing a Teresa Wentzler kit, chart, show and tell thing, and of course I'd love to do that, and yes, people seem to be interested in that, so I will make a video that's exclusively about my Teresa Wentzler stash, although I am quite embarrassed by it, by the size of it. I think it's always nice. I love looking at other people's stash, so it will be quite nice to show my bits and pieces off as well. So that was everything I'd got on notes really from the last video. So again, a huge thank you to all the lovely people out there that take the time to message me. It really makes this worthwhile, and it makes me feel like I'm part of a real community of people that all love the same thing, so that's great. When I came to looking at what I'd done last year, and really the only log I have of anything that I've done is via Instagram, because I show my progress pictures on Instagram, and that was the only way I've been able to sort of work out for dates and things of what I've done when. I really didn't get a lot finished last year, but you'll understand why when I show you the progress that I've made on my main project. So I had 3 finishes last year, which is appalling really. But anyway, I'm very pleased with them. I'll just show them again, if you can stand to look at these things again. So in March of 2017, I finally finished Santa's Flight, my Dimensions kit stocking, which is here, and it's full now. It's full, and it isn't even Christmas. So this was the stocking that I made. Dimensions kits are amazing. I'd had some rough experience with one because of the idea of using multiple thread counts, and sometimes they ask for 4 strands and sometimes they ask for 6, and there's quite a lot of difficulty sometimes in pulling that through on the fabric. However, I used the needle that Dimensions provided, and it was so much easier than anything else I'd tried to use. So my recommendation, if I make one recommendation, is to use the needles that Dimensions provide, because I think they are designed really for multiple strands of thread, so it made life a lot easier. So a lot of this, if I bring this up a little bit closer so you can see it again in all its glory, a lot of this stuff is half stitch or tent. Not tent, obviously, I didn't do it tent, but half stitch tent. It's the same principle. It's 1/2 of a full cross stitch, however you actually stitch it. And a lot of this was using 4 strands of those blues. this was enormous fun to stitch, and it didn't take that long. It took about 3 months, I think, and I absolutely had a blast doing it. I can't recommend these kits highly enough. Obviously you don't stitch it in this shape on the fabric. My partner Nigel has converted it into a stocking backed with velvet, dark blue velvet on the back, and finished off with various trimmings. There it is. So I had intended to stitch the companion piece to this, which is another stocking which will have my name on it. However, with work being so busy come September time, I'd kind of gone off the idea of trying to fit another stocking in. Plus, I was so locked into the one project that I was doing that I didn't really want to deviate from it. I wanted to get through that one project, and then I felt once I'd done that one project it would open up the possibilities for rotations in the future. So finish number 1, which was finished in March 2017, was my Santa's Flight stocking, and to my shame it didn't even go up this year because I was so busy at work. Nigel was away. I didn't put any Christmas decorations up, none, and I didn't even put this baby up, which I really should have done with the amount of work that I put into it, but it didn't happen. But next year there'll be 2 stockings hopefully, and they'll both go up on the fireplace, which is just over here. Okay, then I flipped over to Teresa Wentzler's 12 Days of Christmas. I'm only going to flip through these quite quickly because I'm probably boring you all because you know these so well because I've already shown them off if you watch my videos. But Teresa Wentzler's 12 Days of Christmas, 12 individual panels which make up obviously the 12 Days of Christmas. I started at number 1 and got the first 2 done. So the first one, which is the partridge, I finished in May of 2017. So well prepared with the old backings, not, but there was number 1, the old partridge in a pear tree. Huge fun to do, 1/1 stitching. The only 2/2 stitching is the borders, everything else is 1/1. This is really why I needed those magnifying spectacles, because you can imagine this was crazy small. It's done on 20. Do you know, I can't remember. It might be 25 count. It might not. It's done on a count of even weave. And then in, I've just covered that up, June of 2017, I had completed day 2, which is the Turtledove, which was incredibly fiddly, but I love it. I love that pattern. So part of what I'm going to be looking at doing in 2018 is to get, you know, a few more of these done. The idea is possibly to make a runner of them, of all 12. They'll be repanelled up together with some kind of backing fabric and used as a swag around the top of the fireplace at Christmas. They took about 2 weeks each to do, so they're not hugely complicated stitches. Like I've said before, the real negative, if there is a negative, of these particular designs is this border is identical on every single day, with the exception obviously of the day. So you can imagine that gets quite tedious quite quickly doing the same thing. So I said I would give them a break, and I have. 7 months. So I'll get on to day 3 at some point in the not too distant future. Day 3 being the French hen, of course. So they are what I had finished up to June. By that point, I was romping away with the City Mouse and the Country Mouse and the City Mouse, which is the Heaven and Earth Designs chart that I'm doing, which there they are, now christened Rufus and Percival. And I'd got so far with this that I thought, you know what, I really, really want to finish this now. I really want to finish it. If I can just quickly find, if you'll bear with me for all the glancing away that I'm doing, and it's not terribly good. In July, I was at this point on this design. If you can see that. So I'd started the third row, I'd just started the third row, finished the first page, which was a beast of a page. It was confetti nightmare time. So I thought, I'm just going to keep cracking on at this and see if I can get it done for once and for all, and then it's one big project done. And I am so pleased with the progress on this. As I say, if you follow me on Instagram or Heaven and Earth or Stitch Mania, then, or you see my posts on those rather than that you follow me necessarily, this is where, oh, here we go. This is where we've got to. I'm sorry the light's not great here this evening. Of course, it's night, so I'm relying on artificial light, so these may not be coming up terribly true. It looks very, very red at the moment. It's not quite that red, but how pleasing is this? So I was at about this point on this row last July. So since then, we've done all of this row here to this point, started this row, and I now have this one page, tiny page, and it's done. Hurrah. So when I last made, I'll start that again. When I made my last video, I was just about here, showing off that I was nearly at the penultimate page of the row. So since my last video, I finished that row and got this far here. So I'm really, really delighted with this. I absolutely love it. With all the time that I've spent on it, I've never fallen out of favour with it. I just think it's the most delightful image, and I can't wait to get it finished and framed. It'll be framed straight away. It's going straight over to the framers once it's done. Sorry, look at this. I don't know what I'm doing. You'd think after this many videos I'd be a bit more professional about this. Michelle, this is Standy Uppy City Downy. That's Mitch Stitch. You know what I'm talking about. So, there we go. I'll give you a moment. I had a sudden crisis of confidence. I had gridded a lot of this. When I started this piece, I didn't grid. It was going well enough, and I could follow it well enough that I didn't need to grid. But by the time I got to this confetti nightmare here, I was really starting to struggle without gridding. So I gridded the rest of the piece. Finished the row, left the gridding in, and then Letitia, the crafty curator, just happened to mention in one of her videos that she'd had a problem. She wanted to know what other people's experience had been with sulky sliver thread, because she'd had some problems getting it out of her Rafiki design. So I had a slight panic and thought, what if I have the same problem? What if I pull all this out and you can just see the lines? What if it won't come out? Even though I've used sulky sliver, what is it called? That, you know, it, that, this. Anyway, so I thought I'm going to have a go and just see if I can tease a little bit of it out. And to my huge relief, I don't think it's, I mean, if you look at it close up in very bright light, there are some faint lines where it's been. But I think by the time it's behind glass and it's framed and it's up on a wall, that's just not going to show. I had a few hairy moments where it just didn't seem to want to pull out. And a really hairy moment on one of these sides where it started to pull the stitches out with it. So just a little word of warning, just be a little bit careful when you're pulling that stuff out, because even though the whole point of it is it's very slippy and it won't cause friction against your threads, it can still get a little bit tangled up. So just be a little bit ginger when you're removing it if you've never used it before. The piece that I'd gridded before, which was the Mickey Mouse Candemar Designs, the Fantasia piece, was much smaller, and it was on Ada rather than linen, and I think it was a lot easier on Ada, and it just pulled out like a dream. But this was a little bit more tricksy. I try and always stitch under the thread so that I don't lock it in, but even so, there are occasions when, you know, unavoidably you don't. But there we go. So that all came out fine. The other final thing to mention about this at the moment, a couple of videos ago, I'd said that there was a colour error in this piece, that it was bothering me, but maybe other people wouldn't spot it. And nobody came back and said, well, it's obvious where it is. I can see it is screaming at me. So I left it and I left it, and I knew it was there. It was really bothering me. The problem is these stitches are so tiny. So tiny. There's his little shoes. I just didn't think I would stand an earthly chance of being able to rip the thread out and not damage either the fabric or the threads around the rogue area. So I thought I'm going to have to live with it, because I daren't rip them out. And then I thought maybe I could overstitch them. There's not too many of them. It doesn't look too complicated, so I located where the colour was on the chart. Yes, I'd got the wrong thread. It was a complete error. So I restitched with the right colour over the offending threads. It's made it a little bit bulky. The offending area was all round here, and I'd got a very dark brown that was just not sitting correctly at all. And I'm pretty close to this at the moment, and I can't really see where the problem was anymore. So I think I've got away with it, and I'm much, much happier with the finished result. I just knew that if I stuck that behind glass in a frame, put it on the wall, it would always be taunting me and saying, you know I'm wrong, you know I'm wrong. So I couldn't do that. So I overstitched. So because, as I say, it's made it a little bit bulky, but you can clearly do that. So if you don't fancy ripping out on a Heaven and Earth design or a very intricate design, just consider the idea of overstitching instead. It worked. It worked for this, and I'm much, much happier with this as it is now. So the most exciting thing of all has been doing his feet, and I have his little legs to do, Percival's legs, and that's it. That's all I have left to do. I've been averaging about between 2 and 3 weeks per page, so I'm hoping that certainly by the end of March, if not the middle of March, I can have got this finished, and believe me, there will be a video to celebrate that moment. I started it in March 2015, but I obviously haven't been stitching on it exclusively in that time, but it will have taken about 2 years probably by the time I've got through it, and I have had an absolute blast with it. If you're ever thinking of doing a Heaven and Earth design and you're put off by thinking they're overly complicated or they're too daunting, it's one stitch after another. It's like, in actual fact, they're so much easier than a lot of patterns that I've dealt with, because there's no back stitching, there's no blended threads, there's no French knots. It's all full stitches, or even half stitches if you're doing it like I'm doing it, and it really isn't complicated to do at all. It's just following a pattern. So there we go. That said, I won't be doing a Heaven and Earth designs again for a while. I think I need a breather from it, and I want to get back to some more I'm going to say traditional cross stitch, but you know what I mean. Things, I can't even explain that one. There we go. Anyway, so Country Mouse and the City Mouse. Done. Just looking at my notes here to see, once that's done, that gives me carte blanche then, really. I have a few things in WIP that I'm going to be very much concentrating on, so I just thought I'd share those with you as well. So, sorry for erring all over the place. First of these, I'm really itching to get back to this because I've been seeing other people doing the winter sampler, particularly all over Floss Tube, and it's really, really making me hungry to get back to my spring sampler, which is the Janelin spring sampler, which I have shown often before. I don't think there is any change to how it was looking the last time I showed it, but in case there is, look at that, that just fits beautifully. This is the progress I've made on my spring sampler. These are such wonderful, wonderful patterns. They're great fun to do. The colours are amazing. They're probably not coming up at all well on this video, but the colours are to die for. Every little bit makes it feel like its own little finish, little umbrella. Oh, I've got a finish. A little bit of ribbon. I've got another finish. So there's a great sense of achievement that you haven't got an overfacing one great big full coverage piece of fabric. Everything you do is a little finish in and of itself. I am doing the back stitch as I go along because I can't face the idea of doing that amount of backstitch in one go. And like I've said before, I'm actually quite enjoying the backstitch process on this kit. It's great fun because things really pop when you have backstitched them. So this is the most amazing fun, and it's a perfect time of year to go back to it with all the Easter bunnies and chicks and things on it. So I'm hoping to get back to this. I must try and get this finished. This, I have to say this, with these kits, they are not a walk in the park. They are very, very intricate. There's lots of fractional stitches, French knots, back stitching, everything that there isn't in a Heaven and Earth design is in this and then some. And it's not a quick stitch. Even this bit of gingham at the top took me far longer than I thought it was going to, because the colours were so close to each other that it was quite a tricksy thing to do. Anyway, there we go. Spring sampler. And congratulations to everyone's work on the winter samplers. They are looking amazing. You know who you are. There we go. Spring. So spring is definitely coming back into the rotation, and it will probably be the first thing that I work on when I've finished my mice, just because I'm really keen to get back to that one. The second whip that I have, that I haven't touched in a very long time, but which is definitely coming back into rotation, is Teresa Wentzler's Peacock Majesty. Sorry for the glare. This is the small peacock design that Teresa Wentzler did. The more I look at the peacock tapestry, the more I think I'm never going to do it, because it's so intricate. It's unbelievably intricate, and it'll put me off pairs for life. But this is how far I've got with my little Peacock Majesty. And this, for a tiny little piece like this, is so fiddly. There is no such thing as an easy Teresa Wentzler piece. So there it is. But I love the effect. The tree branch looks amazing. But again, it's all fractional stitches. The amount of blends is just ridiculous. And it's a bit of a mess on the back because of the amount of, you can see all this ziggy-zaggy stuff here because of the amount of leaping around you have to do on it. But there it is. And again, you can see with this, it's Ada, and I've gridded. I don't think I could have done this without gridding, actually, so I would always advocate the use of gridding, just because it makes life so much easier. It's not cheating, it's just aiding the process. That's what I say. That's whip number 2. Whip number 3 is obviously the 12 Days of Christmas, which I want to get back to, and you know, at least pepper what I'm doing with those designs. They take about a fortnight, as I say, so I could just pop them in every now and again through the rest of the year. The rest of the year. It's only February. The last thing that I started is the direct fault of my last video. I was showing off kits that I had bought, including these. There were 3 of them. This is spring, and there's also summer and autumn. Of course, having thought about this, there isn't going to be a winter conducted rambles pattern, because who does conducted rambles in the winter? Maybe, I don't know. So there are 3 of them, and this one is spring. I showed, if you want to see the other 2, just flip back to my 6th video, you'll see them in detail there. I had no intention of starting this, but of course what happens when you make a floss tube video? It has to upload, and it disabled effectively my iPad for the rest of the day, and I use my iPad for my Heaven and Earth design, so I couldn't stitch on my Heaven and Earth design because I'd just disabled the method by which I stitch. So I thought, I'll just little bit, just a little bit. So that's what I did, and this is how far I got in the evening that I had to do this in, while I couldn't use my iPad. There's mess everywhere, as there always is. With, now you see that's upside down. That has to be upside down because they are legs. So they must go that way. So I think what I have here, can you see this? I think what I have here is, how am I going to do this? I think I have that horse's leg. I think it's that leg there, is there. And that is the outline of the other leg. And this is the harness that's coming down here. So this is a nice easy stitch. It's all whole stitches, I think. There is some back stitching involved, but it's all whole stitches. Gorgeous colours, nice and straightforward. Lots of blocks of colour, which is a dream after all the confetti that I've been enduring through my mice. So that's in the rotation as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 things. 4's enough, I think. 4's probably enough for me. I've got my other stocking to bring into the mix as well at some point. Go back a couple of videos if you're interested and you'll see the other stocking that I'm intending to do. And that's probably as much whip as I can stand, although I make no promises. Something else might slip into the mix. There are so many things, as with everybody, that call. Oh, the other thing about this is it's the first time I put anything on a Q-snap. I'd never used a Q-snap before, and it was great. The tension was really, really good, and it would clip nicely onto my Lowry stand. It was all great and good. So that's wonderful. So that's my 4th whip. There we go. They're my plans. That's what I'm intending to do over the summer. I will do my Teresa Wentzler haul video, and I am going to try and do these more often, because the fear is that once you stop doing things regularly, then you never get back onto them. And if you had seen how many times I restarted this video before I was comfortable to continue with it, you would be laughing. 20 takes, I think, before where we are. Anyway, there we go. A couple of other things to talk about. Does anyone do this? Does anyone felt? I picked this kit up. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is a felted terrier. Oh, words fail me. I saw this last week in Hobbycraft. I had to buy it. I've never felt it in my life. What I'm going to end up with is probably Frankenstein's terrier, because I've never felt it. So I may have to do some practice before I get onto this. I have no idea what this stuff is. I have some needles. I have a big block of foam, and I have random tufts of wool, and I have a picture of Kirsty Allsop. Anyway, come on. I would have paid the amount for this kit just for the picture. So if anyone's felted and they want to tell me how on earth this goes together, that would be great. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I bought it. 2 book recommendations. Well, no, a book recommendation and just something that I've picked up. If anyone has never read... That's bad English. I read this recently. If you've never read this, read this. This is so good. Shirley Jackson is most well known, is best known for The Haunting of Hill House, which of course has been made into a couple of movies, The Haunting and The Haunting. And I've not read The Haunting. In fact, this is the only thing I've ever read by Shirley Jackson. It's very good. I didn't appreciate how much I was enjoying it until I'd finished it, and then it kind of settled in my mind. It's really disturbing on some levels. I suppose you'd call it American Gothic. It's so good. And look, thin as you like. So you could read this. So I recommend this. Alternatively, I have since learned that it is, as I speak, being adapted for a movie. So there is a film version of this coming out. So if anyone's read this and they want to enthuse with me about how good it is, then please do. It's a very, very good book. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. It's one of those books that kind of settles in your mind, and the more you think about it, the more impressed you are by it over time. So yeah, that's a recommendation. And the other thing, I don't know anything about this book particularly, but I've been hearing lots of good things about this book. Again, it's not very big. The Leopard by Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa, who wrote this book in the 1950s. It's the only book, or the only book of note that he wrote. I'm a poet, don't I know it? And it gets rave reviews. A friend of mine from the choir had been listening to it on Audible and said, you have to read this. If you like books, you have to read this book. There is a book review program on the radio in this country called A Good Read, and again they were raving about The Leopard on that. So I haven't read it, so if you've read it and you want to rave about it, that will give me great peace of mind, because I've just spent some money on it. And if not, I will read it and I can get back to you on it if it's worth talking about. There we go. I think that's everything. I think I've been a bit manic in this video. I'm sorry. I haven't eaten. Maybe that's it. And the whole setup is different to me because it's night and it's dark, and I haven't made a video for so long, and I haven't really got a great deal to talk about, and now I'm really, really ranting. So you may want to just have a little look at this little fur ball. Oh, this is Polly. Oh, there she is. There we go. Polly is our tabby cat. She was born as a stray in our back garden. Next door's cat was a little bit free and easy with her morals and her body, and we ended up with kittens in our back garden. So there were 4 kittens, 3 of them were rehoused. Polly was supposed to be rehoused with them. She hid on the day that the animal rescue people came, and we couldn't find her anywhere until the animal rescue people had gone, and then she revealed herself. So we felt that was a bit of a sign that she wanted to stop with us. So she's been with us for 10 years now, I think. So she's about 10, and she's adorable on her terms. She doesn't like being picked up. She can be quite tetchy at times. Hey, can't we all? There we go. So thank you for your time. If you got to the end of this, I appreciate all the likes and the thanks and the comments and everything, the wonderful love that everyone shows in this community. I am just over a year from my first FlossTube video, so that's amazing already. I've only made 7. I know people make hundreds of videos, or they make them every week, and I'm just not that organised to be able to do that. But I will keep making them. I will keep making them. And there we go. So yes, thank you again, and please feel free to comment. I may do a belated 1-year anniversary giveaway, maybe next time, maybe, I don't know. I'll see what I've got to give away. So that's it for now. Happy stitching, everybody, and see you soon. Bye.